Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robin Dolezal, and this is my colleague Alex Pars with Ironwood Financial. Today, Alex, we want to talk about why you need a financial plan. There's tons of algorithms and computer things that you can do that will help you come up with the allocation for your 401k, how much you should be saving. But today we want to talk about 3 big mistakes and things that we should really talk about with a financial advisor.
That's exactly right. The first thing that you really need to figure out is, why do I need a financial plan? Okay, and a lot of people don't even think they need one because they do a good job saving. And as Robin mentioned, you put your money in, you allocate it well, and it grows and it grows, and then I'm ready to retire. Well, there's an old saying, which is, if you hop in a boat and you sail out to sea and you don't know where you're going, chances are you won't end up where you want to be. Okay, so the first thing you need to know about financial planning is where you're trying to go. And once you figure that out, you need to figure out where you are. One of the first questions we ask people is, how much do you spend per year? Okay, and some of the answers are actually quite amusing.
Right.
We have people who, one of the couple might say 40 grand and the other one will say, no idea.
Right.
They come back next week and it turns out it's 120,000 a year. Okay, so you need to know where you are, where you're going, and then you can develop a plan to get there. So that's the really basic 10,000 foot view of financial planning that so few people actually think about when they get to this stage in their life. Now, one thing I do want to point out, we're not talking about financial planning for the 20-something-year-old. We're not talking about financial planning for those people who have got a small family and are starting to accumulate assets. We're talking about planning for the most important, scariest decision of your financial life, and that is the time when you decide to retire. Okay? Once you make that decision, it's very difficult to go back, and you darn well better be prepared before you quit your job. Okay? So you need to figure out, again, where you stand. Then you figure out where you're going. And then we plug it all into the computer, we run it through different modeling, and we figure out if that's enough. Okay? And that's the computer aspect of it, but that's not everything there is to it. A lot of financial planning has to do with what I would call the outliers. You come up with a financial plan that looks good on paper, and then you realize that someone's got this weird little nuance that changes their plan. So Robin here, he's going to talk about a couple of the big things that we see that the computers don't pick up on, but can really impact your financial plan if you're not thinking about it.
That's right. So when we talk about this, we've got an ebook and a webinar that talks about some of the biggest pitfalls, some of the biggest mistakes retirees make. Today what we want to do is talk about another few that we haven't mentioned in those other videos. One of the biggest mistakes that some people make when they retire is decide, you know what, I'm deciding I'm going to take out my 401k and I'll pay off my house.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows it. And everybody's talked about it, especially I think maybe some of our grandparents. It's just a generational thing. We want to be debt free. We don't want any debt when we retire. So let's take out what we have in our 401k and pay off the house. Huge mistake.
Don't do that.
Don't do it.
So if you need $150,000 to pay off your house, cash, well, you're going to have to take out probably $2.25, maybe $275,000 out of your 401k just to pay off a $150,000 loan. Does that sound like a good deal to you?
No.
No, not at all.
Right.
So prime mistake that we see all the time is people taking large chunks out of their 401k right as they retire to pay off a big debt.
Next big mistake that we see is people spending from the wrong pocket when they retire. So let me give you an example. Someone retires with $1 million in their 401k and they've actually got $100,000 saved up just either in their savings account or just a non-retirement account. And they say, you know what, I'm going to retire and I'm going to take all that money from my non-IRA account. That way I don't even have to touch my 401k, Alex. Isn't that a great idea?
Yeah, everybody hates taxes. Okay, so I retire. We had a client come in just the other day. They sold a house they got $120,000 in the bank. They're like, I can let my 401k grow for 3 more years and spend that money and pay no taxes on it. And I'll be pretty much tax-free for 3 years. Isn't that wonderful? Well, that's a great idea if tax brackets aren't marginal, okay? But tax brackets, the more you spend, the more you make, they go up, okay? So what we always see as people go through retirement is that one-time expense that comes up somewhere in the next 20, 30 years, okay? Whether that's, I want to take a cruise for my 50th wedding anniversary, or I want to help Junior with a down payment on his house, or I want to remodel. They come to us and they say, hey, again, I want to take 100 grand out of my 401k to help Junior out. Well, sorry, if you need 100 grand from your 401k, that means you probably need to take 150 or even more just to get that 100 grand net of taxes. Okay? When you tell them that, suddenly they don't want to help Junior so much. Okay?
That's right.
So what we like to see is people have some non-taxable money outside of the 401k that they can access for those opportunities that come along.
Fun opportunities, investment opportunities, whatever it may be.
Yeah, whatever it may be. Don't spend all of your non-retirement money because, if you've gone along and now you're 75 and you want to help Junior out and give him 100 grand, well, if you've got 100 grand in non-IRA money, boom, it's going to cost you 100 grand. Okay, if you've got 100 grand in your 401k, sorry, you might not want to do it.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Third big mistake we see in people retiring and not doing any financial planning is the lack of estate planning. This is kind of going on into estate planning with an attorney, but there's so many people who really haven't even looked at their paperwork at their 401k and decided who their beneficiaries are, or life insurance. You just talked about a client who's got an old life insurance policy and who's been remarried, and the ex-wife is still a beneficiary on that life insurance policy.
35 years they've been remarried to the new wife.
Yeah, we see this all too often. All too often.
Estate planning is not for you. It's for your beneficiaries. It's for your children. You need to come up with what we call a drop-dead list, which is here's a quick list of where all my accounts are, and you need to make sure that your children can find that, or your beneficiaries, in an emergency or in a situation where you're incapacitated or unfortunately pass away. So once you do that, you are really giving your children a great gift, which is making their lives easier. Nobody wants, with all the emotional trauma of losing a loved one, to also have to go through boxes upon boxes of stuff to figure out where dad hid the stock certificates. So make sure you have an estate plan, make sure it's in writing, and make sure your children know where to find it. Okay? Once you've done that, you've eliminated quite a bit of headache from their lives. So again, financial planning is more than just a computer algorithm. Okay? You need to go through all the little things that are special to your life. Okay? If you've got children with unusual needs, your estate plan's different. If you've got more 401k money than non-401k money, your investments are different. If you've got the opposite, they're different. There are so many little variables that you need to think about before you pull the trigger on retiring. So once again, this is Alex and Robin with Ironwood Financial. Check out our other videos. And of course, if you have any questions or there's any topics you want to see us talk about, send them in. We're happy to go over them. Thanks for watching.